Hi, so today my partner Raquel Summerlin and I would like to talk to you about nutrition and weight status, and particularly the trajectory of certain diseases and statistics, and what we can do through our diet and certain physical exercise to combat these things. Being students in the occupational therapy field, I particularly want to talk about the role that nutrition has on mental health and how diet can help fuel our brain. So starting with learning disabilities in children, you see 52% of all children with learning disabilities are defined as learning disabled, and 5% of all school-age children have learning disabilities. And so they've come out with a range of special diets that they think could combat this, as they think that certain foods in particular contribute to a range of learning and behavioral disorders, particularly ADHD, which is thought to have been associated with things like artificial ingredients and food colors that we find in processed foods. So the first of these would be a paleo diet. A Paleolithic diet has been gaining much popularity in recent years, as it is meant to combat many of the modern disease epidemics and modern diets that are associated with sugar and high saturated fats and processed foods. It is a Paleolithic diet originates from our earliest ancestors, and it is meant to eliminate processed foods, saturated fat, sugars, and go back to the diets of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. These diets, paleo diet is typically high in protein with a low glycemic index, as well as contains many fruits and vegetables that contain phytochemicals to help fight off inflammation. It's dairy-free as well, legume-free, grain-free, and of course sugar-free. Other special diets of interest in combating learning disorders include a dairy-free diet, gluten-free diet, and of particular interest, the Feingold diet, for the reason that, as we said, certain sugars and artificial ingredients being associated with the rise in ADHD. This diet is meant to cut out all of those things, and parents have reported that many children have reported improved symptoms when these foods, known as triggers, are avoided. And next, I want to talk about the gut-brain axis and its effect on mental health. So, in your gut, and this can affect people of all ages, in your gut you have a microbiome. The microbiome is a community of approximately 100 trillion bacterial organisms living in your gut. They're extremely important to immune system health, cardiovascular system, your weight, mental health, and other aspects of health. And these bacteria make up what's known as your intestinal flora. It is important to note that the microbiome first begins is first initially developed via vertical transmission through the placenta and amniotic fluid. The studies have suggested that infants exposed to prenatal stress developed a disturbance in the microbiome of the gut and a decreased in the species of bifidobacterium. This certain critical period during the birth and GI development is essential for newborn health. Studies have found that breastfeeding was directly correlated with IgA levels and a number of important other intestinal flora bacteria. The strain bifidobacteria is transmitted via breast milk from others who breastfeed, and this particular strain, along with lactobacillus, is thought to play a role in the development of the neurotransmitter GABA, which is an inhibitory chemical in the brain. Your intestinal flora affects things such as immunity, the absorption of vitamins and minerals, your weight metabolism, obesity, inflammation, and even it's been linked to autism. And so what is the gut-brain axis? Well, according to a study, your healthy gut function has been linked to normal central nervous system function, hormones, neurotransmitters, and immunological factors released in the gut are known to send signals to the brain either directly or via autonomic neurons. So in your gut, you have this constant communication that's going on between your central nervous system and your gut, and that's why a disturbance in these bacteria, an imbalance of the good versus bad, known as a dysbiosis, can affect this. It's known to affect also the endocrine system and immune system and other pathways as well. This is why your gut is known as your second brain, or your enteric nervous system. And like as I said, it's thought to affect endocrine, neural, and immune pathways. And as you see here, here's an example of friendly bacteria versus unfriendly bacteria. Important to note, a lot of these unfriendly bacteria feed on a lot of the sugars that are associated with modern diets. And so how can we combat this? Well, there's something known as probiotics. Probiotics is essentially putting good bacteria into your body. Can be found in certain supplements where you just take a pill and get the probiotics, or it can be these live cultures can be found also in things like yogurt, kefir, cheese. Kombucha is a very popular drink among many health nuts nowadays. And then we have prebiotics. Western diets also have an have low fiber. Many people in modern diets aren't getting enough soluble fiber in their diets. Soluble fiber is also known as prebiotic fiber because probiotics feed on it and they continue to colonize and flourish. And prebiotic fiber is found in things like chicory root, bananas, artichokes, onion, garlic, dark chocolate. So this is supremely important for several digestive disorders and inflammation. And then so next, I want to talk about something that could possibly affect us all one day, is the effect of diet on dementia and Alzheimer's. And so Alzheimer's, it affects 24 million people worldwide. We find 4.6 million new cases annually, and the global prevalence of dementia is expected to double every year for the next 20 years to be over 80 million by the year 2040. So, can Alzheimer's be linked to diet? Well, possibly. In 2008, Dr. Delamonte conducted a study at Brown University in which she injected mice with streptozin, which is a form of nitrosamine, like nitrates, and particularly we find a lot of sodium nitrates in a modern diet, and it's a preservative used in like hot dogs and other sandwich meat and other things. But she wasn't even studying Alzheimer's, she was studying diabetes and trying to see what effects it would have on the brain if she cut insulin off to the brain. It was observed that there was deficits in energy metabolism, which increased oxidative stress in the brain. She saw mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammatory cytokine activation, and disturbances in acetylcholine homeostasis. The energy metabolism actually leads to a production of acetyl coenzyme A, and this is why you notice disturbances in acetylcholine homeostasis. And acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter involved in memory. So, after injecting these mice with streptozin, she had them do a series of maze tests, and she's seen that they were developing dementia. And but even more interesting, she found these plaques in their brains, beta amyloid plaques. It's the same plaques that we find in the brains of Alzheimer's patients that choke out neuronal connections, which led her to believe that in fact Alzheimer's may actually be new type 3 diabetes. They've never thought of as diabetes before, it's thought of as Alzheimer's, but now they're beginning to think of Alzheimer's as a type 3 diabetes. Brown says, we conclude that the term type 3 diabetes accurately reflects the fact that Alzheimer's disease represents a form of diabetes that selectively involves the brain and has molecular and biochemical features that overlap with both type 1 diabetes mellitus and type 2 diabetes Other factors for nutrition and Alzheimer's, we find an interesting study done by the Chicago Health and Aging Project. This was a study that was done on over 6,000 residents in Southside Chicago, all of age 65 and older. They, over a period of years, they studied who ate high saturated fat, meaning 25 grams or more a day, and who ate low saturated fat. Those who ate low saturated fat tend to develop less dementia side effects and even Alzheimer's, even if they had the gene. Because Alzheimer's is thought to be genetic. It's carried through a gene called ApoE4. And we found that even those who had the gene, if they ate less saturated fat, their likelihood to develop the disease was less. And this shows here, yet that those who ate more were 2 to 3 times, the risk was 2 to 3 times higher of getting the disease. And so they studied vitamin E as well because it's a powerful antioxidant. Interestingly, they found that those who were getting at least 8 milligrams a day of vitamin E into their diet cut their risk in half. And so there was another study done at the University of Cincinnati, and they wanted to study the effects of diet on the brain, and particularly antioxidants. And so they gave all people 65 or older with mild cognitive impairment, and they had them drink grape juice, a cup of grape juice every day. And after 12 weeks, they noticed improved cognitive function and improved memory recall. And they also, so they did the same thing again with blueberry juice. And once again, they showed improved cognitive abilities and drastically improved memory recall. Well, blueberries and grapes have that color for a reason. It's what gives them that color is known as anthocyanins. Anthocyanins said they're an antioxidant and have an anti-inflammatory effect on the brain. It said the anthocyanins have been associated with increased neuronal signaling in the brain's mediating memory function, as well as improved glucose disposal, and benefits that would mitigate neurodegeneration. And so, when they believe that the brain is naturally drawn to antioxidants. We notice, you go into a store, we notice the bright orange color in carrots, the beta carotene, and we notice the bright orange color in tomatoes, and you notice those bright anthocyanins that make up the grapes and the blueberries that give your brain the antioxidant protection. So, in 2009,